Hey there, everyone. Phantasma Knight here. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, phantoms all kinds. I'm rambling again. The time is, once again, 2 a.m. Oh, 2:10 to be precise. My avatar might be a little different from usual, might be slightly wobbly. Today, for the first time, I decided to try a new program to show my avatar. I want to say it's a slight improvement overall. Nah, I'm not going to go over that today. Anyway, I used to use VC Face. I'm going to try and use webcam motion capture for a little while and see how it goes. Definitely little differences here and there for better or worse. Can move around my shoulders more though. Anyway, I figured it's been a while since the last random rambles, so might as well start rambling. I always have some kind of thought going on. Usually it's not particularly relevant to the task at hand. I don't know if the music's too loud. I'm hoping it's good. I like the song. Anyway, let's see. So I guess the last random thought I had was, well, let's just say it's about the Round Table. King Arthur's Round Table. About the knights that are the paragon of knighthood, of chivalry. Those guys are a bunch of screw-ups, aren't they? To be fair, I've never thoroughly studied King Arthur myths, and even what I know is just little bits and pieces all over the place. I feel like King Arthur's story is more than a lot of the other myths and folklore and legends that I've heard about. More so than the rest of them. It seems like a lot has changed over time. Characters have changed names slightly or have been assimilated to other characters. Roles have been swapped around. For example, Mordred. Not too clear about the details, but it seems like Mordred used to be a pretty heroic guy. At some point he turned into a villain, and King Arthur's bastard son born of, well, of incest. When I say bastard here, I mean born out of wedlock, even though he was also a villain, so I guess he's a bastard in two senses of the word. I mean, there's a lot of little things. If you don't know about Mordred, we'll get back to that in a little bit. But, I mean, I'm not exactly an expert King Arthur tales. It's just, you know, my name, Phantasma Knight. Always valued, possibly not chivalry itself, but my own idea of chivalry, of honor. I don't always live up to it, but I like to. The Round Table, or the Knights of the Round Table, are... I was gonna say they're a little odd, but really they're quite human. The first thing you might notice about the Round Table is that it's the whole concept of a bunch of knights being equal, or perhaps having equal say, maybe not necessarily equal themselves, is a little odd, you know. A table, a symbol of equality, and I don't know, maybe that was a later addition. Maybe that was some story I heard when I was a little kid. But the fact that there's a king at the head of the table, that there's a powerful wizard that's not necessarily one of them, but it's kind of keeping them all in check, Merlin in this case, doesn't sound exceptionally equal, does it? And even when we talk about how heroic they are, there's a bunch of little stuff that happens. I shouldn't say little things. What I mean is, some of them are moderately small, some of them are bigger incidents. But what I mean is, there's no one single mistake, no single downfall. Just stuff is constantly happening. Like, I'm pretty sure that most of the versions of this... Well, actually, I can't say for sure. But at least the versions I've heard, Arthur was always deceived into sleeping with his own half-sister, I believe. Depends on the version of the story. And that's how Mordred was conceived. But then there's other stuff. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. That was a story that they made us read back in middle school. And in that story, I'll just give you a short version of it. Some knight came into the King Arthur's court, called them all a bunch of cowards, challenged them all to take one swing at him, and he'll take one swing back at them. no one stepped forward except for Gawain, who chopped off the guy's head. The dude picked up his head and says, "Alright, we'll finish this in a year. I came to see you, you're gonna come see me." There was a tiny bit more to it, but no, actually, I guess I'm kind of telling the whole story, huh? It's a slightly abridged version, but still. Anyway, so a year later, Gawain goes and takes up the challenge, even though he's probably gonna die because, you know, he chopped off this dude's head. Most people can't survive that, but you can, well, good on you, I guess. Anyway, so as he goes to the meeting spot with the Green Knight, he, along the way, during his journey, he stops by the castle of a lordly couple. The lord had, I think, a deep red beard it was, and a lovely wife, because of course he has a lovely wife. The lord says something along the lines of, "You will be my guest for 3 days. In these 3 days, whatever you receive, you shall return back to me." About the first couple of days, the lord's wife kissed Gawain. Gawain, being a man of his word, kissed the lord. On the third day, the wife gave him a sash that said that, and said that it will protect him from any harm. Gawain, knowing what he was going to face, did not return the sash to the lord. Upon meeting the Green Knight started to swing and hesitated twice. Or not hesitate, but like paused. And Gawain was just kind of annoyed. He's like, "Hey, stop messing around, get on with it already." The third time, the Green Knight nicked Gawain's neck with his enormous axe, at which point Gawain jumped out and was like, "You got your one blow." The Green Knight then revealed that he was the lord of that castle, and that whole thing with the scarf was, or it might have been a shawl, was his ploy. Gawain was a little embarrassed. You know, he showed an act of, you can't count cowardice. Some people will say cowardice is a sense of self-preservation. Regardless, he didn't keep his word. And, you know, that kind of embarrassed him. I think the Green Knight took it in good stride, though. You know, he was trying to get a feel for these knights and also trying to test them. And just because they didn't do perfectly doesn't mean that it was a reason for him to like wage war or anything like that. I don't remember how it ended exactly, but I want to say it ended on relatively good terms. It was just that Gawain was humbled a little bit. So, you know, this one is a relatively minor thing. He was challenged and showed maybe not cowardice, but fear at least. I think it'd be fair to call it cowardice, but it's also understandable why he would be afraid. So you have that, you have King Arthur sleeping with his own sister. You have Lancelot, the greatest knight, King Arthur's best friend perhaps, sleeping with King Arthur's wife, Queen Guinevere. I'm not 100% sure, but I think in every version of the story, yeah, Guinevere cheated on Arthur. Yeah. And then I think I can think of like at least one more incident. Let's see, what was that? Yeah, let me just adjust my camera a little bit. I feel like, geez. I did some adjustments earlier, but I didn't fix it back to what it was exactly. And again, this new program's a little different. Anyway, so back to story time. So there was another incident. I'm not too clear about the details, but so some people think of the Sword in the Stone and Excalibur as the same sword. And in some versions of the sword, they are. But I think in most versions, they're different swords. And I'm just going to go with a version, which I believe is one of the main versions, because I'm never sure what King Arthur tales. So the Sword in the Stone was just a way to elect a king. Kind of a weird way to elect a king, but you know, in days when fairies and headless knights and magic is running around, I guess there could be weirder ways. So, you know, King Arthur is a kid, a boy named Wart, or nicknamed Wart, I guess, pulled out the sword from the stone in anvil and become the rightful king of all Britain or whatever. As he grew into his kinghood, he continued using that sword. Until one day there was a man that he lost his temper away. I believe a fellow knight. I don't know what the root cause was, but whatever happened, Arthur tried to strike the man down, and the sword broke. It was after that Merlin brought Arthur to the lake, where there was a woman's hand sticking out with a marvelous, beautiful sword. Sword was given to Arthur, and Merlin then asked, which do you think is more magnificent, the sword or the scabbard? Arthur answered, the sword, of course. Well, it turns out the scabbard is what basically made him immortal. I believe it prevented him from losing a single drop of blood. Some powerful magic on that thing. I kind of went on a little bit about Excalibur and the Sword and the Stone, but here we go. Another mistake. One born to wrath, I believe. A hot temper. So what do we have? Infidelity, lying, or at least not telling the whole truth. Hot-headedness that might result in an innocent man's death. Did I mention adultery yet? If not, well, I mean, the meaning was kind of implied there. But yeah, there was a lot of stuff that the Knights of the Round Table did wrong. Still, they're generally seen as heroes. And in this way, it makes them seem very human. Kind of reminds me of the Greek gods. They are larger in life, in both good and bad ways. When they are great and powerful, they do crazy stuff like hold up the sky on their shoulders. I'm thinking about the Titan Atlas. Pretty sure he was a Titan. But also the demigod Hercules. They are larger in life, but they also screw up more too. Ares, for example, the god of war, liked getting into wars. He might have been a little bit of a crybaby when he got wounded. To be fair, those wounds probably have killed any mortal man. But here we have a god who enjoys getting into battle and then cries about when he gets hurt. Yeah. I don't dislike the Knights of the Round Table. Never have, for some reason. Usually think of them as good guys, even with all the crap that happened. Alright. We didn't talk about Mordred. So, Mordred, and again, all the details are fuzzy, but in one version of the story I heard, Mordred was sort of the one who started the Civil War. I say sort of, because what really happened was, in this version of the story, Guinevere and Lancelot, did their thing, and Mordred somehow found out about it. And he basically called out Guinevere on it. And the knights decided to burn the queen at the stake for her infidelity. Who should ride in to save her but Lancelot? And who should he cut down in his path but Sir Gawain's siblings? If y'all have watched Code Geass, you might notice that in the first season at least, Suzaku's mech was called the Lancelot, while Lelouch's mech in the later part of the first season was the Gawain. It was later slimmed down because everyone is skinny as heck in the Clamp anime, and it was either renamed or replaced with a mech called the Shinkaro. But yeah, Gawain and Lancelot. You wonder why there's a bit of a rivalry? That would be it. Mordred is often Gawain's either half-sibling or his actual brother. Sometimes the rightful heir of whoever their father was. King Lot, I guess? Gawain is Arthur's nephew, by the way. That makes me kind of wonder sometimes. Yeah. Sorry, just thinking about the relationship between, the king, his sister, his nephews, his nephew who's also his son. I think they are sometimes depicted as the same person, the woman who he slept with, and and Gwain's mother. But anyway, so you know, this whole thing happened. Lancelot has betrayed the Knights of the Round Table. Multiple knights lie dead. The queen has cheated on the king and run off. And Mordred, of course, is just pulling out all the stops to try and take the throne, what he believes is rightfully his. I think, and my memory might be clouded by what little bit I know of the Fate Stay Night, or, well, the Fate Universe's version of Mordred. Mordred might have been the son who was never acknowledged by his father. I want to say this might be more of a fate thing. In some versions of the story, Mordred was knighted by King Arthur himself. But yeah, so we have this whole war that goes on. And by the end, Mordred and Arthur, they fatally wound each other. I believe Arthur with his spear, I never figured out how to pronounce that thing. The Rangam Miniad or something like that. It's a funny spelling. It shows up in Fate Grand Order. I don't play it at all, but I know that there is a version of King Arthur that's the Lancer class, so they use a polearm instead of the sword. Oh, and I'm not quite sure what happened, but prior to this point, Excalibur's scab was lost, so no more invincibility. Arthur slew Mordred. Mordred fatally wounded Arthur. Mordred doesn't get his kingship. And Arthur has lost everything. Oh, and Merlin may or may not be a dirty old man who was led astray by some seductive entity. We should probably blame the entity, but you know, it kind of makes Merlin seem like a dirty old man, doesn't it? Oh, and at least one version of the story, Merlin remembers the future and tries to predict the past. So he knew that he was going to be seduced and taken away. Seduced and taken away. And then there, he was like wondering to himself, like, oh shoot, did I tell Arthur about the thing with Lancelot? Oh yeah, my hand doesn't quite link up properly. My hand was on my chin, I swear. So yeah, all that happened. So Merlin's gone, the scabbard's gone, multiple knights have died or have killed their own comrades. It was not a good time. Oh, and the king's dead. With no official heir. No. Some would argue that choosing a line of sovereigns based on blood is kind of silly, but you know. Either way, yeah, lots of bad stuff happened. The final kicker, though, was Bedivere. The last night, the one who heard King Arthur's dying wish. He said to throw the sword, Excalibur, back in the lake. Bedivere went, looked at the sword at the lake's edge, and thought to himself, it's such a waste. Don't know what else he thought. Maybe he wanted to hang on to something that represented their king. Maybe he thought that they needed a symbol of power to unite the country. I don't know what it was. In either case, he decided to come back. Arthur asked him what happened. He said he threw it in the lake and it just sank in. Arthur told him to go back and do it again, but actually do it this time. He went, came back, told the same lie. Arthur told him to go back and actually do it. This time, Bedivere threw the sword, and hand reached out of the lake and grabbed the hilt and then pulled it into the water. When Bedivere reported that, King Arthur finally passed away peacefully. Although some say that he was taken by the fairies to the Isle of Avalon to recuperate and return in Britain's greatest time of need. Which, if that was World War II, there might have been some people who legitimately believed it and were very distraught by the fact that it didn't happen. Could also be that things were bad and they were just, you know, clinging on to whatever hopes they could. I doubt the vast majority of people, or I doubt even like a great number of people truly believe that he's going to come back, but someone told me that there were some believers there. I don't know. So yeah, I just went through a whole bunch of fiascos, huh? Lancelot and Guinevere didn't even end up together in the end. I think they went to like a monastery and I'm drawing a blank on the place the nuns go. It's not a nunnery, right? No, that doesn't sound right. Whatever, you get the idea. No more relationships with those two. Yeah, so they did a bunch of not so great things. It feels weird to praise them as these great knights after everything. But I suppose it's a lesson on how we're all human and how all of us ultimately have our own flaws and failings. I don't know if the message is that we can all do great things despite our failings, or that if we screw it up, then some things just can't be fixed. But I think there's a lesson there somewhere. I think that even if it didn't pan out, even if it feels impossible to be a perfect knight among knights, still worth carrying just a little bit of chivalry. You know, some aspect of honor and kindness, of bravery and skill. And I don't have anything well defined, nothing tangible. I'm not talking about holding doors open for ladies as they approach or whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's nice to hold doors open for people, especially if they need it. Older folks who are having trouble walking, don't slam the door on them. That'd be rude. But yeah, helping people out, it's a nice thing. Keeping your word when you can. And it almost sounds like I'm giving you an excuse to lie, but there are some extenuating circumstances where I suppose a lie might be in order. To save your life or the lives of others, for example. But in general, I think it's good to avoid lying if possible. Also, a bunch of other lessons in there, right? Just because you think you can get away with it, doesn't mean that someone else didn't see it. Gwen, the Green Knight. Just because you think a man's guilty doesn't mean that you should just jump to conclusions and take him out. Maybe you should actually investigate a little bit. Incident with the sword and the stone. Well, I don't know where I'm really going with this, but yeah, just kind of want to talk about knights, and particularly the Knights of the Round Table. You know, the little oddity about how these respected knights are such screw-ups. I don't know what that means for me exactly. I haven't exactly accomplished a whole lot, but you know, there's still time, I guess. At the very least, I could say that I haven't ended a kingdom yet. Alright, I think that's all for me today. Let me see if I have like one of my old like poems / scribbles I could rattle off. Maybe there's something fitting. Don't hold any expectations though. This might be just me dragging out this rambling video because, you know, that's rambling for you. You go on to tangent after tangent after tangent. No. Don't really have anything that's particularly fitting. Okay, how about something a little lighter? Okay, I got something. Peace is a wide plain with warm sun and a gentle breeze. Peace is an open schedule on a free day and no hurry to fill it. Peace is a cup of coffee in the early hours before the world wakes. Peace is what you make of it, but it keeps us going and gives us life. Nothing too profound. But yeah, we try to look for that little bit of peace in our life. No need to go chasing after all the chaos. Chaos will be there, whether we want it or not. Sometimes we just gotta roll with the punches. Anyway, that's all I got for today. Thank you for joining me, everyone. Hope you had a good time. I'm talking as if I'm ending one of my usual streams. Well, that's fine. Thank you regardless for being here. Stay safe. Maybe I'll see you around.